Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
The Super Bowl was in Minnesota. Everything was right.
Right.
And the Eagles just blew them out and went on and had their own dreams. And I think of, all right, Buck and Aikman were on that NFC Championship game call. We go back 5 years. Now we're here, and they're going to be on the call again. I think that's a great game on ABC of all places. That's cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see Joe and Buck in their new environment. Of course, nothing's new for them in their relationship. But I'm going to parlay on the receivers you're talking about. Torrey Smith. How about in this game? We've got a new receiver in A.J. Brown teamed up with Jalen Hurts. We're going to get to see him in prime time. But, of course, we've got Cousins, who steals the show on prime time, throwing to Justin Jefferson. So there's going to be some great receiver battles going on there.
Steals what?
Steals the show.
I mean, listen, he is the 2-minute Terminator.
Huh?
He is the late game luminary, the fourth quarter pharaoh himself. I don't know that I go as far as saying that Cousins steals the show in primetime quite yet. Sean O'Hara with that analysis.
What's he even talking about?
Maybe he means like the all-encompassing, because every primetime game they got to show Kirk's record and we have to talk about it. I mean, there's some podcasts that like talk about it a lot and talk about Kirk. So maybe he's just like talking about that. Maybe he's just kind of referencing.
I have that was weird.
That was really strange.
But the Viking schedule is trickling out, and you saw it there. We'll talk more about it later on in the show, but that's a Week 2 Monday Night Football matchup on ABC, of all places, as Peter Schrager said. So we'll talk about we've got essentially half of the Vikings' first month of the schedule has been unveiled. This is Purple Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, our executive producer Declan Goff. The show presented by our friends at Surly Brewing Company and TCL TVs, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. One of our listeners sent us a picture of like six different Surly cans on the ledge of his TCL Roku TV. So
loved it.
That is how you support the brand and the Purple Daily community right there.
Amen.
Glad he didn't take a picture of himself wearing, Chill Boys and,
If it's tastefully done, I'm not going to complain.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely tell us about your Chill Boys, though. So, all right. Let's get to this. Really interesting comments, depending on how you look at it, from former Vikings assistant GM and current Broncos GM, George Paton, who joined Mike Florio's Pro Football Talk Live last week. And Florio asked him about the decision to trade for Russell Wilson, and then this kind of turned into Paton reflecting on his time with the Vikings. Some of this is about what he said. Some of it's about what he didn't say. And I think we should do like a Law and Order deep dive breakdown here into these George Paton comments. Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's go.
I'm going to read the quotes here. I just think you look at the teams that have won, Paton said, and what's the common trait? Typically, it's a quarterback. And then you look at Russell Wilson's record. Over the first 10 years, he's won more games than any quarterback, I believe, in history. Is that true? That in the first 10 years, Russell? Tom Brady didn't win?
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, his record is ridiculous. We'll get to that in a second. But that's a pretty good track record of winning, Paton said. He's a winner. The proof is in the pudding. Look at his record. He wins games. Now, they had a lot of good players around him. I get it. And we're going to need a lot of good players around him in Denver. Hopefully, we have enough around him where we can take the next step. There's a lot more here that we're going to get to. But let's stop there for a second.
Okay.
George Paton is a well-respected former Vikings executive and he's turned down interviews for years and years, and finally a team got him to crack, and he decided, all right, I'll become the Denver Broncos GM. So this is one of the most respected front office guys in the NFL right now, and he is referring to quarterback win-loss records.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent do you guys believe in quarterback wins? Because Kirk Cousins' record is exactly 500.
Right. Well, I think it depends on how you interpret it, because I understand the faction of people that say, well, yeah, it's great if the guy wins, but it goes beyond one player. And it, includes his teammates, which is exactly right. So I understand that. But I think what this is it's a deeper dive into the philosophical feeling about what wins mean, and more importantly, how people who win are wired. Because forget Kirk Cousins' win-loss record and think about Kirk Cousins' teams and Kirk Cousins' personality and having the guy, and these are the intangibles that people who believe in the math don't really get. The intangible is it's not the win-loss, it's how the person's wired. It's why these teams do so much work on background and personality tests. Because it's not just can you win, it is can you take control. And really, more and more, it's always been important at the quarterback position to do that, but now it's even more important. You want a guy that can control the feeling of the locker room and the flow of things. And a guy who, when the pressure is really, really on, doesn't feel it. A guy that could take a step back and be like, we're going to be fine. I mean, the greatest story, I think, from that end is the Super Bowl, I think it was 89, Cincinnati, San Fran's driving. They're in the huddle. The pressure is immense. And Montana says, that's John Kennedy, right? And he points up in the stands. That dials everything back, right? So I think I know what the response to this conversation from just a wins-loss is going to be, and I understand that. But I think what the people who dismiss wins need to understand is it goes deeper than that because it gets into what does Russell Wilson bring? And he brings a certain charisma and he brings a certain feeling and he brings a certain ability off of those things that make it feel like we're going to win. And I think the question is, does Kirk bring that?
So I agree with everything you're saying about Russell Wilson because I think he does bring a certain gravitational pull, leadership, calmness to the position. But I also think a lot of people that are listening to what you just said would say, wait, so let's start with the record. So Kirk Cousins is exactly 500 over 7+ years as a starting quarterback. Russell Wilson is 104, 53-1 with multiple deep playoff runs and a Super Bowl championship. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, do you think Russell Wilson has just greatly benefited from better infrastructure, or do you think it's been his pull of the Seattle Seahawks, or some combination of both? You can't deny that the first handful of years, Seattle had one of the best defenses in the NFL, and for like a 1 or 2 year stretch, had one of the best defenses in modern NFL history in the Legion of Boom defense. Now, on the flip side, that defense started to erode big time in 2017, and so the last 5 seasons, Seattle has had either a terrible defense or, at best, nothing close to one of the best defenses in the NFL. And they're still winning 10, 11, 12 games until last year. 2020? Hell, they went 12-4 with a putrid defense, in large part because of Russell Wilson. So to what extent, when you look at Cousins being 500 as a starter, we're talking about, George Paton is referencing winner. He's a winner, win-loss record, pinning it out of quarterback.
Yep.
Cousins is 500.
Yep.
Russell Wilson is 50 games over 500 with multiple deep playoff runs and a title.
Yep.
How much of that difference is a reflection on those two guys as leaders and quarterbacks versus the infrastructure around them maybe being better for Russell Wilson for a long stretch and Kirk Cousins getting the short end with Washington, and more recently 2 years of bad defenses in Mike Zimmer in Minnesota?
All right. I think that plays a role. There's no question. Pete Carroll, when I don't know if he still has his fastball, but Pete Carroll with his fastball was a very good coach. I think we all would agree that Mike with his fastball was damn good, but Pete Carroll better, I think.
He was more of a chemistry guy too, right? He was
absolutely
old school, but he was bringing guys together.
We're great at that. Exactly right. But you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to break this down on Kirk to 1 year that we all saw, because I think we can talk in general terms here about Kirk's career in Washington, which, by the way, I don't know much about. Like, I don't know. I look at some of Kirk's coaches there and think, why didn't he potentially win more there? But I'd like to talk about a year that we all know, and about a year that I think is the biggest blemish on the whole Cousins-Zimmer-Spielman thing, and that is 2018. That Vikings team was damn good. Damn good. Defensively, coming off a team that had taken them to the conference title game. I mean, that defense was still stout. And that offense had components. And we've always found a way or I shouldn't say we, many have always found a way to try and absolve Kirk and say, well, look at the stats, and DiFilippo was terrible, and Kirk didn't have this, and Kirk didn't have that. Okay, so here's what, if I was to write up a scouting report about Kirk, and I think a scouting report would be nuanced and broken down. So like it wouldn't be, well, here's what I just think about Kirk. 2018 to me, in a nutshell, is the perfect year because the scouting report would say there is no way on earth that a true winning quarterback misses the playoffs. That Bears game, like we're always like, well, it's just one game. Okay, but it was incredibly important. If you beat a Bears team that, by the way, was in the playoffs and had nothing to play for, and you came out flat and your quarterback played a bad game, winners don't do that. So 18 to me is the poster child for, yeah, but here's the difference between a Russell Wilson and a guy who's wired like I want personally and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, the Vikings, by all measurements, too, had one of the best defenses in the NFL still in 2018. And a pretty damn good defense in 2019. And they did win that playoff game on the road against the Saints in 2019. And so that matters too. But since then, because it was easy to say, remember the code words press conference after the season? Well, it was year one, and then it was a new system, and now we have another new system, and now we'll be able to better work on code words and things like that. And the epic Matthew Collar rant from a few years back. Well,
Yep.
We've now seen Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback of all time, so you can't just always compare him. But Tom Brady stepped into a new organization, led them to a Super Bowl in year one. Matthew Stafford stepped into a new organization, led them to a Super Bowl in year one. So missing the playoffs, like you said, is such a huge indictment going back to 2018. And people keep saying, well, why didn't you give him a defense? Why didn't you give him a defense? Well, they did in 2018, but we kind of dismissed that season because, well, I mean, DiFilippo and Zimmer, right? So now we'll get to see it again with a new head coach and a new system, and the defense, yes, I'm sure, will take steps forward. So, all right, let's keep going here. The rest of these George Paton quotes. Some really interesting stuff here. So Mike Florio adds, this is a Mike Florio article based on their interview together on Pro Football Talk. The reality is that some quarterbacks get more from the players around them, from everyone around them, and Paton adds, there's something different. I experienced that for 1 year, 2 years actually, when we got Brett Favre in Minnesota. I remember that first practice. Really, you knew it. It elevated everyone, the first practice. Yep. It didn't just elevate the players. It elevated the people in the building, the work ethic, the accountability. We feel that here with Russell Wilson. So you covered those Brett Favre years as the lead Vikings beat writer for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com, AccessVikings.com.
Yes, I did.
I also covered those teams. You were on the road for road games. I mean, I was sort of, doing three things for the fan. And so in your experience covering those Brett Favre Vikings teams, what do you remember about his presence? And when they talk about elevating people, these are things you can't quantify in a PFF stat report, right? Guys like me want to quantify everything. Yes. There are certain things you can't quantify. So explain covering Brett Favre.
Oh, God, I love this. So first of all, it starts in 2003 when much to the disdain of Vikings fans, the Star Tribune sent me to Green Bay for the 2003 and subsequently 2004 campaign. And the same thing happened, and I was at that first practice at Winter Park when Brett came on the field, but going back to the Packers, it is an unquantifiable presence that certain and not a lot of human beings have. And it is exactly right to say it lifts the culture, it lifts the accountability, it lifts the expectations, and weirdly, it empowers everyone to feel like they're better at what they're doing than they probably are. Which is why Sidney Rice took off.
I was going to say Sidney Rice,
Javon Walker took off.
Vashanchenko.
Yeah, but Phil, when you have, and this is not just true of sports, it's whenever you have a dynamic person, and look, you don't always have this because the personalities are rare, but when you have that dynamic person that lifts everybody up, and I don't mean just leads, I mean lifts everything about your workplace or your team up. Favre had that, and I don't know how, and I don't know why, and I don't know that he even cared, but he had it. And I will give you a lot of guys don't. Carl Anthony Towns is a great player. He does not have this gene. I think Ant might. Like, that's what intrigues me about Ant. But I mean, more often than not, people don't have this. And Cousins does not. And that's not to say he's terrible, because he's not.
It's the ability to make everyone feel like everything's going to be okay.
Correct.
Even if clearly with Brett Favre, it's not going to be okay.
No, I know. That's what's so weird about it. And that ability also translates to people then saying, I can do more because of you, and I'm going to be good at it. Yeah. Russell Wilson, I'm willing to bet Russell Wilson has it. It feels like he does. Brady, no question. So it's not like this commonly held thing. But covering Favre, I was always, don't know if this is the right word exactly, but I was always infatuated with what he brought, because you could feel it. You could feel it and you could see it. But ask me to describe it exactly, and it's a little bit difficult. Favre, I'm just trying to think of any other Vikings I've covered who had that gene, and there aren't a lot. Like Dante, nowhere near it.
Like quarterbacks,
yeah. Like Dante was
Dante
good.
was wildly talented, but a little bit more along for the ride. Yeah,
exactly right. Cousins for sure.
You know, it's funny. Teddy Bridgewater had more of it than a lot of quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Just sort of this. People kind of rag on him because he's got a noodle arm and he's injury prone and he didn't put up the most dynamic stats, but he just had this gravitational pull personality, this cool, calm personality that people loved. The best way I can explain Brett Favre, being around him for 2 seasons, 2009 and 10, was he was a great hang. Not that I ever hung out with him, but his teammates just loved hanging out with him and clowning around with him, and he was the leader of the guys, right? What are we going to do next, guys? Brett was the ringleader of the group. I think he helped create an amazing team chemistry, like you said, where guys it was a tight-knit group because of him. Dumb things like just going and slapping people's asses in the huddle and at practice and just getting guys to loosen up. His teammates, he made his teammates, like you said, feel like they could do anything. Right. That no game was unattainable, or that no situation was insurmountable. And again, in the end, obviously, the NFC Championship game and then the 2010 season, things came crumbling down. But that's not as important as how you can get a team and coworkers to feel going into a season.
And again, to point out, I don't know that he cared much. Like he could do it, and in 2009 for sure. In the Packers' loss against Philly in the playoff game in 2003, it turned out to be a great tease, but he had the it gene. And I think that Russell Wilson, without question, has that. The only way, so the example I would give you of a guy who's got it and you can tell, listen to Justin Jefferson talk about Kirk and then Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow clearly has this gene. Because when Jefferson talks about Kirk, he's not, never rips him, doesn't come close, says he's really good, which is all probably absolutely how Justin Jefferson feels. But he talks about Burrow like he's talking about his brother. Okay,
I'm so glad you brought up the Joe Burrow thing. There was a great Athletic article written during the playoffs. This is back in middle of January. And here's a quote from the article. And this is an article that did a bunch of digging into Joe Burrow's teammates, coaches, what do the people around Joe Burrow say about Joe Burrow, right? Quote, he's got such an innate ability to understand human interaction and human dynamics. There's nothing about it that's forced. I've been around other guys that they can be awkward and they can come across as kind of phony. Joe Burrow is just, this is my gleaning now. Joe Burrow is just wildly emotionally intelligent and understands team building, team dynamics, confidence, all those things. And here's the thing, and there's more George Paton stuff here we'll get to, but why would I want to pay 15 to 20% of the salary cap to someone, even at that important position, that doesn't bring those intangible things in droves? And I get that, market value for quarterbacks is this. Right, but you're not looking to win a fastest race to pay the market value for a quarterback. You're looking to win a Super Bowl. You don't celebrate because, oh man, we got a $5 million discount or whatever it may be. If you're not bringing these things, and I think the biggest question for Kirk here, just to bring this back full circle, is to what extent is he bringing these things? Why is George Paton reflecting on his time with the Vikings and going all the way back to 2009 Brett Favre and not 2018 Kirk Cousins? Well, the answer is obvious if you go back and look at the last 15 years of Vikings football. Why is Kyle Rudolph writing a 2,000-word goodbye manifesto to the organization, fans, and teammates, and including 50 different names and 5 different quarterbacks, and not including Kirk Cousins?
I'd like to thank Joe Cap. Fran Tarkington.
He literally thanked Matt Castle.
Yeah.
Matt Castle. Didn't put Kirk Cousins' name in the article. So these things, people always get on us because you guys are just digging for. No, we're not, man. No, we're not. And can two things be true? Yes. Number one is Kirk Cousins is a damn good NFL quarterback. He's one of the 15 best quarterbacks in the world, especially when conditions are clean. That guy can sling it with the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But the other thing that is true is he doesn't have the same it factor, or whatever you want to call it, gravitational pull personality, ability to make everyone around him better and calmer, etc., as some of these guys that we're talking about. And at some point, 7 years in as a starter, I would think that if he had that it factor, even without perfect rosters and infrastructure, one of his teams would have made a deeper run by now than the one playoff win that he has if he had more of those things.
And here's the scary thing. So I think that there are actually 2 tentacles to this entire discussion. One is the guy that can get his team to the playoffs and can lift his team up, and his team gains confidence and like everything's fine. The second part, and this is where it gets really dicey, is the playoff guy, the guy that can maintain it. Burrow did. Burrow 100% did, big time. A guy that I think has sort of lost that, and it's not because he's not talented. I think it's because he's sort of gone away from his sport in some ways. Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. You look at what's taken place there, right? And he pulls a lot of weird stunts now. Like, there's a lot of weird things there. And look, 13 wins, I'll take it all day long, right? But the Packers have failed to advance when they probably should. And I think the question becomes why. Like, you got to really dig. But I'm going to tell you right now, it feels like he has lost his teammates. And that feeling, again, that invincibility, and this one's tough in playoffs, that invincibility that I got this, we're fine, we're going to win. And Favre struggled too. Favre was great
Favre
in season.
Favre never lacked the confidence, and Favre never, like, this is the thing about Rodgers. There's a I think a psycho deep dive here at some point that can be done.
Yep.
I think a lot of Rodgers' personality is rooted in insecurity. He's very defensive. He likes to he wants to control his message. He's very worried about what people think of him. He spends time putting together a 400-page COVID manifesto to try and fight back against what people think about his commentary, right? Like, he's a super insecure, I would say fragile ego guy. And so it's one thing, but he's also extremely talented as a quarterback, generationally talented. So when you can get out to a lead and everything's rolling and it's great, awesome. When you start to get punched in the mouth and you're getting humbled, and he's not the greatest communicator with teammates and whatnot, how many teammates have spoken the way that they do about Tom Brady, about Aaron Rodgers? You just don't hear it very often.
Right.
So Rodgers is almost sort of a weirder, more talented version of Kirk Cousins in some ways. He's gonna, when things are going well, he's gonna give you these ridiculous numbers, but the minute you run into a tough situation in the second half against the San Francisco 49ers, he kind of wilts.
Yep.
He's not like a foxhole guy the way that some of these other quarterbacks tend to be.
And it feels like the guys who have the gene right and get it and win also, when the season starts, they are basically devoted just to that. They're not, I mean, look, politically and from a religious standpoint, if Kirk got vaxxed or not, I don't care. Like, that's totally up to Kirk. But the reason why I thought it was a problem was because of football. Because if you aren't absorbed by the game, because again, pro sports is difficult. It's tough. Like we're all like, oh, it's Sunday, let's watch the game. These guys are busting their ass, right? And they're trying to get on the same page. So like, I don't give a damn what your beliefs are, but when your beliefs cross the line of football, unfortunately, that becomes a problem. Like, that's the weird thing here. Because This
must
is not
bow
about
down to the gospel of Vince Lombardi and Bud
But I mean,
Grant.
seriously, you need to be all in. Like Brady does a marvelous job, I think, of all the goofy stuff now, which I think is, on Twitter, hilarious. But Brady does a pretty damn good job of bowing down to this is the number one thing.
I want Kirk to get a vaccination of purple people eater blood. Literally, I want Alan Page, Carl Eller. I want their blood inside the veins of Kirk Cousins. That's what I want.
They
to
lost
see.
Super Bowls, dude. I'm not sure I want that. Get a Super Bowl champion.
Just real quick here,
awesome.
there's more from Mike Florio. So he's taking George Paton, kind of jumping back to talking about winning quarterbacks and jumping back to Favre. And Florio adds his commentary and says, the fact that George Paton didn't experience the same feeling he did with Favre as the arrival of Kirk Cousins in 2018 is relevant to this conversation as well. Cousins is not a winner, at least not consistently and not in big games. And Paton, who was with the Vikings when Cousins arrived, apparently didn't experience the same feeling when Cousins had his first practice in Minnesota. It's fair. I mean, is it possible that Brett Favre's first practice was just so much more amazing? Cousins was good too, but I agree. Like the omission of Cousins and moving all the way back to Favre is very interesting.
Yep.
Florio adds, the effort to turn everything about football into a mathematical formula needs to acknowledge the simple human reality that certain personalities can get more from their teammates than others can, whether through words or actions or just merely walking through the door. Anyone who has played football at any level knows that certain players get players to perform better than they otherwise would perform. The Broncos are banking on Russell Wilson bringing that with him to Denver like Peyton Manning did a decade ago. Here's the crazy thing. Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Case Keenum. Kirk Cousins is far better at throwing a football than Case Keenum. But Case Keenum had more of an it factor than Kirk Cousins. Case Keenum was a better team chemistry quarterback, was a better, hey, things aren't going our way. You're looking for someone for guidance. You can look at me. I'm at least going to fake confidence, even if I don't fully believe it guy, So what would you rather have, right? Would you rather have the less talented guy that is just a die-on-a-hill teammate? Or would you have the more talented guy that lacks in some of those areas and is a bit of a weirdo and teammates don't fully connect with him, right? Well,
Or the coach that didn't make it as a quarterback, but had the mind to and not the talent, feeling like in a Frankenstein type of way that he can transfer his mind into Kirk's talent. Because that's what the Vikings, make no mistake, are doing. Kevin O'Connell is here to basically be Kirk's brain. I know it sounds really goofy. It's not.
No, it's
Kevin O'Connell has enough confidence in himself. And look, he looks like a very smart guy, so he might be right. But this is going to be one of the most interesting experiments, I think, that we've seen in this town sports-wise as far as coach and player. Because coach in this case feels that I can transfer. I couldn't do it, but I know exactly what I want. I can transfer that to a guy who can do it, but doesn't necessarily know how to do it.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know that he was given the option either way. I think this was all very much predetermined before Kevin O'Connell.
Mad scientist, though.
took the job.
I can do it. Oh, Kirk,
Speaking of
it's mine. It's alive.
Speaking of mad scientists, the mad scientists at Livia put together a plan to have Judd looking much more slim these days.
And they have done a fantastic job. Livia Weight Control Centers has yours truly down 40 pounds. That's right, 40 pounds. Feeling good, clothes fit. Summer's here, and guess what? The wait is gone. And now I want you to join me on their new Simple Start plan. Only $59. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, $59. You get one-on-one personalized and guided support online or in person. So online, outside the state, absolutely fine. From the Livia team of experts. Visit right now, livea.com, or call 855-GO-LIVEA, livia.com, LIVEA. That's where the weight loss starts. And here's the best part. They'll see it through for you so that the weight stays off.
And let's have just a private conversation among friends here on Purple Daily, too, that Valley Park Medical Clinic is dedicated to providing breakthrough ED remedies to men in the greater Minneapolis area. Do not be ashamed. There's all sorts of guys in the same boat as you. The treatments are surgery-free, drug-free, and non-invasive. These people are highly trained, as you would expect them to be. And they'll work with you in a discreet manner to make sure that you feel at home and can ask any question that you want in a professional, confidential environment. ValleyParkMedicalClinic.com to find out more information. Boys, on Thursday night this week, the NFL's Genius moves into primetime for a full schedule release. We haven't played this one in a long time, but when those chimes hit on Thursday, you know that the schedule is out in full. But it's already trickling out. We already know 2 of the Vikings' first 4 games. So it came out this morning. So some of the networks this week are going to announce big games. And
a day, every day, there's going to be one.
It's awesome.
So Fox will announce something, and CBS, NBC. It'd be great.
Yes, sir.
So we have a Week 2 Monday Night Football doubleheader. The first game is there. They'll do the doubleheader usually like Week 1, and it'll be a 6:00 game and a 9:00 game Central Time. Well, they're stacking these.
Yes.
6:15 Central Time kickoff for Titans at Bills on ESPN, and then a 7:30 kickoff time on ABC for Vikings Eagles. So we know that the Vikings are going to play at the Eagles in Week 2, and then we know that Week 4, right, they're going to play in London, neutral site / road game against the Saints.
Mm-hmm. So by in Week 5 then. Interesting. This is going to be fun. Going to be fun. A night game in Philly. Woo-hoo! Better be careful there. If you're going, don't wear purple, man, because you are going to be accosted by a bunch of very, very unruly drunk sports fans.
It's the dumbest fan base in America.
They're violent.
I agree with Judd. Don't wear. Just go to the game. Don't just wear black or something.
They're violent. Like there's no two ways about it. And
they
I got to know,
like full beer cans. I mean, they're Neanderthals.
I tweeted that, and a guy said, "Oh man, it's all bark and no bite." I said, "No, it's not. They are violent.
It's all bark.
No, it's bite.
No, it's all bite.
Very much bite.
Yeah,
they're very dangerous. I love this though. I love this. Good test, right? Tough test.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very quick game for O'Connell and Kirk to find out what type of strides that they probably made in training camp. So I think this is great. I absolutely think it's. I love the fact that they're going to be put as a team in a rough, tough environment against a pretty good team and get a good road test.
I think it's also inevitable because if they're going to London Week 4, they're in Philly Week 2 for Monday night. It's probably very likely this is aiming towards a home opener in Week 1.
Oh, yeah,
I think I'd be pretty surprised if they went road, home, London.
No.
Now, you could make the case that after the bye week, well, you're going to have the majority of your games at home, so that could be a plus. But I think it's this also is looking like they're probably going to open at home in Week 1 too, which I think is huge.
I agree.
So is it likely that we go home game Week 1, road game Week 2, home game Week 3, London game Week 4,
and then bye week? Yes, sir.
So you're probably looking at a division opponent in there somewhere. I would be shocked if you didn't play a. Could it be a home game against the Bears in Week 1 or home game against the Packers in Week 1?
The Bears are ordinarily at the end. I don't know why, but it seems like since the stadium opened, the Bears have been at the end. How about like the Lions in Week 3?
Who's Week 1 then? Well, Packers at home.
When I unveil my mock, you'll find out.
Oh, you got a mock?
We're gonna do it, right? Like in the next two days.
Oh,
I mean, yeah.
I think we got a mock.
Yeah.
I think we got to mock the schedule.
I didn't know that was a thing until right now.
Oh, you didn't know about the mock schedule?
We did it last
Well, I did it last week. I didn't know you came up with a mock. You give us prep notes of like 6 days in advance. So like I didn't know like you had a mock of that you were ready to.
I think last year Phil did a mock too.
What day are we? Do you want to do it tomorrow? Can you do a mock schedule tomorrow on Purple Daily?
Of course.
Let's do it.
Because we got to write that down on Wednesday.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it tomorrow.
We want it to breathe for a couple days before the actual schedule comes out.
Absolutely. But I'm not going to give away all my trade secrets right now. So, yes.
Oh, no, for sure.
I want to unveil the home opener Week 1, because I'm sure that Declan's right, tomorrow on Purple Daily. That's right. Coming up next on Purple Daily.
Yeah.
The schedule.
Was it Schrags off the top on Good Morning Football there? That was I didn't.
Schrags excited about every game.
I didn't realize. I didn't put the correlation that Buck and Aikman obviously called the NFC Championship game with the Eagles, and it's going to be the same crew again, but on Monday Night Football in Philly.
Yep. Here's a note from the Star Tribune. This matchup will be the Vikings' earliest appearance on Monday Night Football since they began the 2017 season, facing the Saints on Monday Night Football at home. They haven't faced the Eagles since a Week 5 win in 2019 at US Bank Stadium, and I don't think they've played at Philly since the NFC Championship game.
They
Right?
did.
They did in
the next year.
2018.
Oh, you're
Kirk,
right,
Kirk
yeah.
won there.
Kirk won there.
That's
yeah.
right. Oh,
Cousins, you
eye for
Cousins
an eye.
hater.
Hey, you guys beat us in the gateway to a home Super Bowl, but we got you back in Week 9.
99,
Take
baby.
that, Carson Wentz.
Opened at the Falcons, beat the Falcons. Take that, Falcons.
Confetti falling.
Yeah, we suffered a crushing franchise defeat in the title game, but damn it, now we're back and we beat you in Atlanta. Take that, Falcons.
Okay, we have a fun poll of the week here that I want to get to at least the current result, over 1,000 results in here in just a second. Kind of relates to our first conversation to start the show. But listen, if we ever get to the point where we're celebrating, some people pop champagne. I think we're just going to spray Surly around. That's probably what's going to happen.
1,000% right because my friends from Surly, they are the masters at coming up with so many good brews. In fact, you know what? Friday and Sunday were exactly why the Furious is the perfect beer for Judd. On Friday, Wild wins, right? So I had some celebration Surly's because I'm celebrating. On Sunday, they lose. So I'm like, what should I do? What should I drink? Well, Surly again. But you know what? In that case, I'm sort of down. I'm sort of out. It was soothing. So if I can do it, you should too. Surly Furious in particular. And as always, when you are enjoying, as so many people do now, a Surly Brewing product, Phil and Declan, what should people do?
Show us your cans.
Show us your cans. That's right.
Or your taps.
Or your taps.
Or your taps. Your taps are good too. Listen, let's also talk about Dennis Kirk here real quick. They've been a supporter of us for 3 years at Score North and now part of Purple Daily. So yeah, I just want to talk to Ragnar for a moment too, because he looks like a guy that will ride cross country to any game, right? So if you're one of those Ragnars out there and you'd like to hop on a Harley, an Indian, a Metro Cruiser, a sport bike, whatever it is, you'll find what you need at DennisKirk.com. Free shipping on orders over $89, over 160,000 parts and accessories in stock, and same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m. Get in gear and head to DennisKirk.com. They ship today. Ride more, wait less. Okay, it's time for our poll of the week here. That's right. On Purple Daily. And I just threw this out just for fun here. Kirk Cousins, this is on the old Phil Mackey Macadac Twitter account here, at Phil Mackey. Kirk Cousins is the blank best quarterback in Vikings history. And the options were, well, let me first ask you guys. Where does he rank off the top of your head, all-time Vikings quarterbacks?
Third, probably, in mine.
Yeah, I guess third or fourth.
Tarkington clearly won.
Yeah, I'll always have spot.
He's not.
spot
He's
for Dante.
definitely not top three for me because Culpepper, Favre, Tarkenton occupy those.
Oh, yeah, I didn't. Yeah. I was thinking Tarkington, Favre, Cousins, but Culpepper could be above him.
Yeah, give me Culpepper.
I'd buy that.
Peak Dante is greater than peak Kirk.
2004, Dante was phenomenal.
Peak Dante.
Yes. So, okay, Kirk Cousins is the blank best quarterback in Vikings history. 8% say the best quarterback in Vikings history.
Okay.
22% say he's second behind Tarkenton. 28% say he's no Culpepper. And 42% say he's no Favre.
That's my vote.
He's no Favre.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did vote.
What do you make of the 8% of people that think he's the greatest quarterback in Vikings history?
Well, they didn't see Tarkington, first of all. And beyond that, I don't know. Like, there's just no way. Like, to me, that's not the debate.
Well, what if you were to give the Purple People Eater defense to Kirk Cousins?
They'd
They'd be a little old now. But I mean, like,
they'd
you know,
get
if they were in
mad.
their
I
prime.
know. No, they'd beat him up. They'd be like, toughen up, dude, mentally. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more
get
that they would
frustrated.
hold opponents to 6 points.
And then they'd beat him up. Right, because he'd score 3. They'd score 3. Yes. I don't think that was the one question that I don't think there's like a debate. He is not the greatest quarterback in Vikings history.
What would
Probably
he
win a
have to
Super Bowl,
do
come back.
to become the greatest quarterback in
Win a
Vikings
Super Bowl.
history?
Win a Super Bowl. You'd have to win a Super Bowl. Individual success is not enough for me.
And how many did Fran went to 3 with the Vikings?
Yes.
Because Joe Kapp was the quarterback for one of them,
The
right?
Chiefs, first one that they went to.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think if he is even if he's kind of along for the ride, let's say the defense is amazing and, it's a little bit, he performs poorly. So if he is the quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team and has 5 or 6 years of big numbers, then we can have a conversation about. I see these people chirping sometimes too. I saw someone do it to you that might have been in the YouTube comment sections. Even if Kirk led the Vikings to a Super Bowl, you guys would still find a way to complain about him. It's like, no, that's like literally the entire point of our show is wanting the Vikings to win a Super Bowl. Correct. And if we think that there is an important piece to that puzzle that isn't living up to what they should be or is taking up too much money or something, like that's our complaint. It's not about him personally. It's about him as a cog in the machine relative to his value and everything else, right?
Yes, exactly.
Listen, if he all of a sudden flipped a switch and became a Brett Favre leader and was incredible under pressure and all these things, listen, I'll be sitting here with my Kirk Cousins jersey and hat on every single day.
I don't care about anything. I don't care about anything that Kirk Cousins does in his life. I care about how it affects football. Like, that's my singular focus for him. The rest of him, go to town, dude. Be you. Love it. Do whatever you want. I would never get in the way of a person trying to live their life as they saw fit, unless it interferes with the profession of a job that's paying you like Kirk is being paid. And at that point in time, I think it's fair to say, dude, you need to do everything you can to win. Once you're done playing, go spend time with your family, do whatever you want, don't give a damn. But right now, with what you make and your importance to this team, you need to be as focused in on what you're doing professionally as anyone in the world.
Well, I would say that the current situation he's in with the weapons, offensive line should be better, the coach, this year, and then next year's not given, but this year for sure, I don't really want to hear anything. This team has committed to building a team that can go deep in the playoffs, right? And he is the centerpiece of the offense, and he's got his coach in place, and he's got his weapons in place. So this is it. I know we've been saying for 3 years, we're going to find out this time around. Now we're going to find, this is the year we're going to find out. Well, no, this is now the year that we're going to find out.
That's a really good point, though. You are absolutely correct. We have been saying that for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, that's because I think every year we think the offensive line will be a little bit better, or, oh, now he's got an offensive coordinator, but ultimately he never had the head coach too. So that's always going to linger as an excuse until now. So, well, we'll see what happens.
Intriguing discussion, though.
Yeah, or just a 40-minute discussion hating on Kirk Cousins, depending on which way you look at the show here.
If they win a Super Bowl, you know what? Number one. I'll put them at number one. Put them at number one.
Rate, click, subscribe.
Yep, thank you.
Let's shout out our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company, too. They're all about risk management, not in like a check down way. They're just all about maximizing the success of your business, looking out on the horizon for you. They specialize in core industries that they know and understand rather than trying to sell as many policies as possible. And you can bet that whoever your marketing rep is on the Federated side is going to take a full-on, all-in investment into your company and making sure that you are protected and shielded from risks. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours.
You like that? You like that?
All right. George Paton, interesting comment. Sometimes it's what's not said is what's the most fascinating. So let us know what you think. How much do you hate us after that discussion, or how much do you agree?
Guys.
YouTube comment section or feedback tab on the Score North app. We'll see you guys tomorrow.